when you're constantly trying to show how tough you are through social media, and when it comes down to negotiating, you suck. You're supposed to be this master negotiator, right? Remember, in his first term, he swore up and down, yeah, Mexico gonna pay for that wall. They're gonna pay for that wall, baby. Oh yeah. And then what happened? Welcome, Scouts, to the June episode of Rodney and Bobby on your local Lookout. So we're going to get into some hot topics today, as well as a civics lesson. Rodney, how you doing?
Bobby, I'm doing good, brother. You know, I'm out here keeping my head above water, but hey, you know what I'm doing too. I'm out here flipping some tables. And I know we're going to flip some tables today with what you have for the local Lookout with Rodney and Bobby. So, Bobby, without further ado, man, hey, let's get this thing started, brother.
All right. So we're going to get right into it. As I said, we're going to focus on a couple things today. The war in Iran obviously is still going on. And we need to show some little history, go back in time and explain to some people about this relationship with Israel and why we're involved in this war right now and why we support Israel, why we send money to Israel every year. A lot of people don't understand it, don't know the history of the background with our relationship with Israel. So I thought I'd give some background so people can understand. And I want to share it from the perspective of the book that I read from Barack Obama, A Promised Land. So that's been the best explanation for me personally on how I could understand what this is about, like our relationship with Israel. And when he wrote the book, and how it's so apropos to what's going on here today. So I'm going to read some excerpts from the book. I'm not going to read, obviously, the whole chapter, but I'm going to read some excerpts from the book that will help people hopefully understand how far back this relationship goes and why we have been so intertwined with Israel for nearly a total century. So let's get into it. All right. In chapter 25 of Barack Obama's book, A Promised Land, I'm going to read from starting from here. So it says here that the whole thing with Israel, and he knows under his administration, this is nothing new. So in chapter 25, he says the conflict between Arabs and Jews has been open sore in the region for almost a century, dating back to the 1917 Balfour Declaration, in which the British, who were then occupying Palestine, committed to create a, quote, national home for the Jewish people in a region overwhelmingly populated by Arabs. So please understand that this area, as the book just said, is full of Arabs in this particular area. And we're going to create a basically homeland for Israel out of this, right? So over the next 20 or so years, Zionist leaders mobilized a surge of Jewish migration to Palestine and organized highly trained armed forces to defend their settlements. Now, what is a Zionist? This is something else that people may not understand.
Yep,
Zionist.
I was just about to ask you to break that down for me.
Oh, yes.
You got it. Go ahead, brother.
Okay. Thank you, brother. A Zionist is a supporter of Zionism, a nationalist political and ideological movement that advocates for the right of the Jewish people to self-determination and the development and protection of a Jewish nation in their ancestral homeland. The term originates from Zion. This is from ChatGTP, the traditional Hebrew name for a hill in ancient Jerusalem. So on a foundational level, Zionism asserts that Jews, like all other people, have the right to live safely, securely, and within sovereignty in a nation of their own. That's Zionism. So you hear that tie and that proclamation applied to even our own leaders, our own presidents here in the United States of supporting that. So that's where the term Zionism comes from. So back to the origin again. So Zionist leaders mobilized a surge of Jewish migration to Palestine and organized highly trained armed forces to defend their settlements. So understand there, when you break that down, here you have a Jewish migration into what is now Israel, and then they've been trained. They've got people that are militarized to be able to basically defend where they're going to settle. So in 1947, in the wake of World War II, so we're talking about basically 80 years since World War II, and in the shadow of the Holocaust's unspeakable crimes, the United Nations approved a partition plan to establish two sovereign states, one Jewish, the other Arab, with Jerusalem, a city considered holy by both Muslims, Christians, and Jews alike, to be governed by an international body. So Zionist leaders embraced the plan, but Arab Palestinians, as well as other Arab nations, were just emerging from colonial rule, and they obviously objected. So as Britain withdrew, the two sides quickly fell into war. And with Jewish militias claiming victory in 1948, the state of Israel was officially born. So for the Jewish people, this was like a dream fulfilled. Now they have a historic homeland after centuries of exile. They're just coming off the Holocaust, and they're now going to settle in a region that basically is full of Arabs, and they don't like them. Okay, and honestly, the way the map was written, if you're Palestinian, you have every right to be upset. This is not an anti-Jewish rant. I'm just simply saying, in general, the Palestinian people have always had a right because that map was carved where a large portion of the land was given to Israel. All right. So for the next 3 decades, they would engage in a succession of conflicts with its Arab neighbors, significantly the Six-Day War of 1967, which a greatly outnumbered Israeli military routed the combined armies of Egypt, Jordan, and Syria. So Israel seized control of the West Bank, sound familiar, and East Jerusalem from Jordan, the Gaza Strip, and the Sinai Peninsula from Egypt. There's more to come about that a little later. And the Golan Heights from Syria. So you got to think about this. You have combined armies that fought one army from Israel, and they got their butts whooped in the Six-Day War. 1967 is when that happened. The memory of those losses and humiliation that came with it became a defining aspect of Arab nationalism, and support for the Palestinian cause a central tenet of Arab foreign policy. So understand, now the Arabs are embarrassed, they're angry at what happened, and now they really have an agenda against Israel and the Jews that have settled in that area. So the Palestinians living within those occupied territories, mostly in refugee camps, found themselves governed by the Israel Defense Forces, the IDF. You've heard that before. With their movements and economic activities severely restricted, prompting calls for armed resistance and resulting in the rise of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, the PLO, which was headed by Yasser Arafat. The U.S. was no bystander in all of this. Jewish Americans had suffered generations of discrimination in their own country, but they and other Jews immigrating from the West to Israel still shared language, customs, and appearance with their white Christian brethren, and in comparison to Arabs, they still enjoyed far more sympathy from the American public. So here we have the first foreign leader to formally recognize Israel as a sovereign state was President Harry Truman. All right. The American Jewish community pressed U.S. officials to assist the fledgling nation. With the world's two Cold War superpowers, obviously, the United States and Russia, vying for influence in the Middle East, the U.S. became Israel's primary patron, and with that, Israel's problems with its neighbors became America's problems as well. So understand, this goes back 80 years. This is nothing new. So when people say, why are we giving money to Israel? This has been going on. You late to the party, partner. Yep. We've had decades of presidents that have tackled this issue over and over and over again. We already know this. This is already, we send money every year. It's approved by Congress. Every year, our fiscal budget, our annual budget, sends money to Israel. So it's nothing new. And in the last election, people were so tied up in, well, I won't support anyone that supports Israel. This is already baked in. You're not understanding this relationship at all. This has been established for decades. Now, there's been a partnership with Israel that has been very good as well. Some people don't realize Israel has been the one, Israel as well as Egypt, they've been partners with us in identifying potential terrorist activity, communicating with us on the ground with several things. They've been a good partner to us. All right. So if you got someone that's been a good partner to you and prevent other atrocities from happening to you, you be supportive of them also. Otherwise, what kind of friend are you? That's just keeping it real. That's how deep this relationship is. So during this period of time, over we can say 80 years, we've helped Israel build a military. We helped them build an economy. They're the one country right in there in that region that we have the full support militarily, etc., to help them build. But we do not, and this is what has been broken now, we generally did not do joint operations militarily with Israel against, i.e., Iran or Iraq or any other country in that region that is hated the United States.
Exactly.
And so what we have going on now is now we're talking about Lebanon. We're bringing Lebanon into the picture. And why is that? Well, I can tell you what the biggest reason for that is because of their leader. All right. Their leader is Bibi Netanyahu. All right. So let me give you a little background on Mr. Netanyahu. All right. First of all, most people don't know this, and I was stunned when I read this in the book. I didn't know Netanyahu grew up in Philadelphia. Now he is an Israeli, but he spent most of his younger years growing up in Philly. All right. I didn't know that at first.
Yeah.
So let me give you a little back.
There's a lot of things about that guy people don't know. I don't even know if you're going to talk about his birth name, but all that stuff is just.
You know what? I was, but if you want to opine on it when I get through, we could do that because I know that's not his real name.
Not at all. Yeah. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
it's just so much about that guy that people don't know, like you're saying, raised right here in America. But
Yeah. And please understand that later on in the book, President Obama talks about how the reason why you really don't have peace with Palestine and Israel, or the only way you're really going to have a path to peace, you really have to have two like-minded leaders for Palestine as well as Israel that really want a solution. Okay.
Exactly.
And the problem with someone like Netanyahu is that he represents a right-wing extremist party. So he has no interest in coming up with a two-state solution. I'm going to read you just this last little excerpt about him so that you understand about Netanyahu, who is really running this war, okay? He's the reason we've gone into it. We just had one idiot that's currently running the country that was dumb enough to fall for this, because he's been saying for years that Iran is on the verge of having a nuclear weapon. He's been saying this for like 20 years.
Absolutely.
All right? Yep. They're just a couple weeks away. They're just a couple weeks away. Yep. And you'll see how this pattern fits what we're dealing with right now with our current boob in office. So just a little bit of background on Netanyahu. This is what people need to understand. He was born in Israel, but spent his formative years in Philadelphia. Again, I'm reading from Barack Obama's book, Promised Land. His family had deep roots in the Zionist movement. His grandfather, a rabbi, immigrated from Poland to British-governed Palestine in 1920. His father, a professor of history best known for his writings on the persecution of Jews during the Spanish Inquisition, became a leader of the movement's more militant wing before Israel's founding. So you're going back before 1947. Although raised in a secular household, Netanyahu inherited his father's devotion to the defense of Israel. He'd been a member of a special forces unit in the IDF and had fought in the 1973 Yom Kippur War. And his older brother had died a hero in the legendary Entebbe raid of 1976, in which Israeli commandos rescued 102 passengers from Palestinian terrorists who had hijacked an Air France flight. So understand, it's deep-rooted with him in his hatred for Arabs. All right, it's deep-rooted. So he does not want to see peace. All right, and most past presidents, most of our former presidents knew that, at least the ones that's had to deal with him. All right, they know how he feels about a two-state solution. He's not with it. So then you get Twitter fingers in office, and he's the only one gullible enough to go in and fight. And you get people now that say, yeah, we finally got somebody smart, with the balls to go in there. It's a dumb move because all the other past presidents knew what they would do, which was close the Strait of Hormuz. That's the first thing they knew that they were going to do. He didn't listen. All right. And Netanyahu doesn't care. So this is why most past presidents didn't fall for the, hey, they're 2 weeks away. Well, then you have, as we bring this to a close, I'm going to always bring this up. Don't forget, we had a deal with Iran already worked out. It's called the JCPOA, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. All right, that's the Iran nuclear deal that President Barack Obama had negotiated, had it signed in July of 2015. It was with between Iran and the P5+1. That's the United States, the UK, France, Russia, China, and Germany. And it required Iran to limit its nuclear program in exchange for extensive economic sanctions relief. That's how the money got released. Their money. We always want to bring that up. Their money was unfrozen and sent to them, because you get idiots constantly saying, well, we just gave them a pallet full of money. It was their money. That was in exchange for relief of sanctions. All right. So under the agreement for uranium enrichment, Iran agreed to limit its uranium enrichment levels and significantly reduce its stockpile of enriched uranium and the number of operational centrifuges. All right. So the biggest part to remember is they accepted a highly intrusive, continuous monitoring by the International Atomic Energy Agency to verify peaceful compliance. They were operating under the deal. They had agreed to what was set forth. And then you get this moron comes in here and rips it up and puts nothing in place. And as a result, they continue to start their stockpile of enriching uranium and trying to build something again. And if you listen to these narratives on TV from these same Republican Party members from different parts of the spectrum, they all say the same thing now repeatedly. Well, for 47 years, they've terrorized Americans, and we do not want them to get their hands on a nuclear weapon. No joke. Really? Because that's why we had a deal in place, so that they would not. All the other past presidents understood that. Only this one didn't. All right, at least the one that's pretending to be president, because I don't call him a real president. So we've had that moniker for 47 years. We've known that. We know we didn't want them to get their hands on a nuclear weapon. So when we get them to agree to a deal and you rip it up and put nothing in place, what you think they're going to do? They're going to start back operations again. So any enrichment that they may have had, which you said you obliterated a year ago, any enrichment that they may have had, it's your fault. It's your fault, because you ripped up the deal. And then they feel like, well, why should we agree to any deal you offer? Because we had one in place we were complying with, and you reneged on it. You just ripped it up. So it's things like that where people need to educate themselves on what's happening. Anything that comes out of these fools' mouths right now, you need to keep in mind, we had a deal in place. They were complying with the deal. All right. Now we're talking about dust and all this other stuff right now that is not something that's going to happen overnight for them to even be able to develop. We want all this stuff. And then so he can repackage and say, see, look what I did. You did nothing. In fact, you're probably going to do worse than what the deal actually had them do, because I hear you talking about giving back money. I hear you making concessions that basically are similar to what was already agreed to in the first place. So they're playing around with this fool, because they know, like, look, man, this guy isn't very smart. The whole world knows it, by the way. This is nothing new except for his supporters. They somehow think that this is genius, or he's the master negotiator. He couldn't negotiate a deal after he ripped it up, put something in place afterward, or improve on the one that was already in place. Nah, he's incapable of that. Totally incapable of that. I'm going to stop right there, Rodney, so I can get your perspective on what you've heard. And if you want to give us BB's real name so they can understand that.
Well, I don't want to mess it up with this colonized tongue that I have. But anyway, but it's not. But I always give a lesson to our viewers and listeners, which is do your homework. Mm-hmm. Check it out yourself. You don't have to believe. You don't have to just believe everything me and Bobby say. Just look it up. Just maybe look up what is Benjamin Netanyahu's or Bibi Netanyahu, whatever you want to put in. What is his birth name? And it'll come up. But look, and the reason I don't want to go into it, Bobby, because brother, you are cooking, and I do not want to turn down. I do not want to turn down the heat, bro. And that thing is boiling. But what I will say, just real quick, is that it just reminds me of. We know that there's two reasons that the son of a Klansman, there are primarily two reasons that this guy said yes when no other president would say yes to Benjamin Netanyahu about wanting to do, just do all the stuff that he's doing. Everything, not the guy's doing a lot right now. And he knows that he can get away with doing it because of who we have in the White House. Number one is that this guy just want to outdo Barack Obama. That
And he
deal was signed, that deal was working, and he went in, like you said, ripped it up, didn't have a plan or another deal for a plan in place. You already got to do that before you rip up something. And then the other reason, it harkens me back to Dr. Martin Luther King when he says the two most dangerous things in the world is conscientious stupidity and sincere ignorance. And that is the son of a Klansman that we have in. Yes, era we're living in, and it's definitely the son of a Klansman that's in the White House. So, but look, I don't want to spend, because you did what you did. There is no reason in trying to go into depth, brother. That was outstanding.
Thank you, man.
The way you went through, use the excerpts from the book, which is, by the way, a great book, and to be able to break it down basically to where, like our brother Joe Maz used to say, you put it where the goats can get it.
That's
you really
right.
did. You really
That's
did.
right.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. And by the way, his birth name was Benjamin Milikowski.
Milikowski.
Yeah. So that's a Polish. That's actually a Polish last name. Okay.
Yep.
So do with that what you will. But
well, you know what, Bobby? It's like everybody thought that Adolf Hitler was German. And the guy wasn't. He was Austrian.
He wasn't. That's right.
Yeah, he was Austrian.
That's right.
But anyway.
So I wanted to give that, and I hope that people, first of all, the book is absolutely great. I'm ready for number 2. The book covered up to the first term. All right. I'm waiting on the second one. It was long, but it was not boring. It was so chock full of information. And so a lot of times when I see people speaking on social media, they have absolutely no idea what they're talking about or what they think they know that they're talking about. That book provided so much information for me personally to go back and read and understand. And I'll never understand in this era why just like just then, I took a few seconds to look up Netanyahu's birth name. Some of this information is easily researchable and people just won't do it. I'm just amazed by that. Back in our day, we had to go get encyclopedias and, go use the Dewey Decimal System and go check out a few books, and hopefully get some information.
I was just telling somebody the other day, man, how I was in undergrad, bro. You remember the microfiche?
Yes.
The microfiche machine. I constantly stayed in the library. I wore out that microfiche machine, just printing out stuff, man. And, it's kind of like, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. Cause I talk about surface knowledge a lot, but it's so easy that we can just go and just Google something or use whatever search engine you use. I'm definitely not trying to promote Google on here,
right.
but whatever you search engine you use and you go and you look up something, it's great that you can just find what Benjamin Netanyahu's real name is right off the bat. But however, it hurts us in that, especially with a lot of the younger folks, the millennials and under, is that they don't, that's what they have. They have a whole bunch of surface knowledge, but it's hard. They can't go in the weeds like that because so much information is just right at their fingertips that they don't end up going deep into subjects and finding out why. So, but anyway, Bobby, again, you broke that down, that civics lesson. And I just want to remind people that was the civics, because, we do the hot topic and we do the civics lessons on this, but that was the civics lesson, because not everything is about bills and bills becoming laws and the president signing it, become a law. Sometimes part of civics is also deals. And a lot of times deals are often war related and that kind of thing. So again, great civics lesson.
Thank you. And another thing people should note is regarding Netanyahu is that he lost a democratically elected election. He lost in 1999. And then they did a snap election where he wound up getting back in power again. So he is deeply unpopular. This is what the similarities are with him in our current regime. He's deeply unpopular representing his country. He is not. They're not behind him. They may be behind him protecting the country because of what's happening now with fighting Hamas. But for him personally, they're not supporters of him. Most people in the country do not like his leadership. That's just a fact. He's not a popular president or a prime minister in his country. So a lot of people don't realize that too. But there's a lot of similarities with him, and I bet you with him and with Trump because of that being deeply unpopular, yet running your country anyway. And even going back to right before the last election, he comes here to Congress because, by the way, he really can't go many other places because he's considered a war criminal. I'm talking about
Yep.
Bibi. He's considered
Yep.
a war criminal by the Hague. So he really can't just go around the other countries and visit like that. So he's limited in where he can go. But he comes here and what does he do? Gives a speech to Congress that most of the Democrats didn't want to hear. They walked out, they left. And where does he go right after that? He goes to Mar-a-Lago.
Yep.
So, these are things that if people would pick it up in real time, like this is what's going on, this is the real background behind this person, they would understand a little better. And I'm the type of person, I don't want to go through life. It's one thing if you don't understand something or ignorant to something, because we all are. We're all ignorant to something. And there's
Absolutely.
nothing wrong with that. Ignorance just
Nope.
means you have a lack of knowledge.
Yep.
Okay. That's better than being stupid. Conscientious stupidity.
Exactly.
It's much better to be ignorant than to be conscientiously stupid. But I would rather just learn things, man. As you go through life, you should be constantly learning. I've always had this saying that the day you stop learning is the day you start dying.
Yep.
So just constantly try to expand your mind. And there's a way to protest what's going on. There's a way to say, I disagree with XYZ, but have some knowledge behind it. Don't just follow behind what some yak said on social media. I don't care if it's just me. Do your own research. At least
Exactly.
come to the table, at least knowing and having some background on what you're talking about. But so many people now, again, I mentioned before how the media's credibility has been destroyed, all because this clown wants to declare fake news on anything he doesn't like and declare a bunch of fraud when there was none. It's been adjudicated in court over 60 times that there was no fraudulent activity, credible fraudulent activity that influenced the 2020 election. How much money have we wasted, by the way? How much money have we wasted on in this insolvent nation? Because I keep reminding people of that. How much money have we wasted on wasteful investigations into the 2020 election? Now we're doing it with all of his so-called enemies. Recently now it's E. Jean Carroll. We're going to investigate. This is a waste of taxpayer money. This guy is doing everything the complete opposite of what so-called conservatives, especially fiscal conservatives, said during the entire term that President Barack Obama was in office. There was all this, we don't want to spend on this, we don't want to spend on that. And we know they already had planned what they were going to do the day he got, put in office. They had already planned and met, had these secret meetings on trying to destroy his credibility and everything. We didn't want to help him win anything, didn't want to help him pass anything, et cetera, et cetera. And that's why I tell people, read that book. You will see how even in Obamacare, and I'm getting off tangent here for a second, but even in Obamacare, when he asked Chuck Grassley, after making all of these other concessions, because people wanted a single payer plan, and he received a lot of heat for taking that out. He was trying to get enough votes until they figured out we can do this without them, man. Forget it. Trying to be diplomatic. And as he asked Chuck Grassley in the book, if I gave you everything that you wanted in this package for healthcare, if I conceded and gave you everything that you wanted, would you vote for it? You know what Grassley said? I don't know.
Yep.
And that's what he was like. You don't know. If I'm sitting here telling you I give you everything you want in this deal, if you'll sign and agree to it, and you still saying you don't know, you see what the intent is. They have no intention of ever trying to help him. So whatever flaws there are in Obamacare that people have seen, the idea of it was, and what has typically happened when laws are passed in Congress, you typically build off of the law and work on improvements. All right. So we're at a point in our country where there is no concession. There's no trying to improve on anything that he created, as we just talked about with the JCPOA. If you want to make it even stronger than what he had already made, they were complying to, you had every right to do it, Republicans. Y'all could have easily created more stringent the JCPOA if you wanted to, but you didn't. So the dumbest thing you can do is rip up something and not have anything in place. So I'm done talking about
look, yeah, I was going to say, Bobby, before you
Mhm.
move into your first hot topic, is that what it's showing us is that even the so-called fiscal conservative movement, or the fiscal conservatism, that it was just all
BS.
it was just BS, man. It was never. It's
It's
just
still
really.
BS.
It was never a real thing. It was cold. It was coded language, just like everything else is with the GOP, and because they don't really care anything about that. But I also wanted to say that with all of the I don't know, the hoopla, all of the wars and basically the terrorism, and some even say genocide that Benjamin Netanyahu is creating. We know that, like you said, he's unpopular. And when you have a president or prime minister in his case who is unpopular, one of the first things they do is start wars, start conflicts, right? And they will do it without Congress or whatever their governing or their legislative body is in the country in which they lead or whatever. And so it's kind of like Donald Trump saying that he would not be the forever war president, and he wouldn't start new wars and all of that stuff. But look, when them numbers start changing, so and we see what's happening. And so, like you said, I like the way you brought together that the commonality, and we've talked about it on this platform, that that Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump has a lot in common, and that being that they are very unpopular. And when those guys come out of their seats, and they do not want to come out of those seats because they both know that their own countries will probably throw them in jail. So we have to just remember all of that. So I do appreciate you showing how similar those guys are and why they are working together. But I think that might be cracking a little bit, Bobby. But I'm sure you will be talking about this down the road because I think that there's some cracks starting to happen. But hey, when you get two evil, well, they believe they're evil geniuses, when you get these two people together and these very egotistical, narcissistic kind of folks together, can't nothing good come out of it. So we'll just be patient,
and we'll just keep reminding people this is what you voted for.
It's what you voted for.
So,
all right, Bobby, you got your first hot topic, brother.
Yeah, so let's get into the Iran war, all right? I want to make sure we gave that background perspective to what's going on right now. I had to go back and look because if you notice what's happened again right now, what's happened again today, yesterday, is we're still waiting on this so-called negotiated deal. And Captain Twitterfingers is always on social media talking about how close we are to a deal. Oh, they're begging. They're so ready to make a deal with us. Yada, 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 yada. So I had to just go back and look and see how many times has he said this. Okay. So I pulled a PBS article, and I had to laugh at the stuff I was reading just to show how long this has been going on, how long he's giving the same nonsense. So I'm just going to read them off to you. And this is up until the end of April. Okay. February 28th, he announced the start of Operation Epic Fury without specifying an end date. March 1st, he said in the speech that, quote, combat operations continue at this time in full force, and they will continue all of our objectives are achieved. All right. And when he was asked how long the United States and Israel will continue the attacks, he says, well, we intended 4 to 5 weeks. All right, that's March 1. March 2nd, at a White House ceremony, he says, quote, we're already substantially ahead of our time projections, but whatever the time is, it's okay. So he repeated the initial projection, 4 to 5 weeks, but we have the capability to go far longer than that. So you got head stuff up there saying, this is not Iraq. This is not endless. This is the opposite. The operation has a clear, devastating decision mission. Destroy the missile threat. Destroy the Navy. No nukes. Okay? So March 5th, Trump says as an event to celebrate soccer champions enter Miami CF, the United States military, together with the wonderful Israeli partners, continue to totally demolish the enemy far ahead of schedule and at levels that people have never seen before. It's always got to be something that's never been seen before, never been done before. There's always got, and it's all a lie. It's all a ruse. So this is what he says then. Headset says, our munitions are full up and our will is ironclad. Again, the fake tough guy. which means our timeline is ours and ours alone to control as long as it takes to ensure the United States of America achieves these objectives. March 7th, Trump says on Air Force One, quote, "We're winning the war by a lot. We've decimated the whole evil empire. It'll continue, I'm sure, for a little while." He called it a short excursion. All right. When again asked, how long will the attacks continue? He didn't directly answer the question. Well, I think we've accomplished more in 1 week than anyone thought possible. I don't know why he thought that, because nobody believes that the Iranian army has any real chance of defeating us. He says he said on Truth Social, we don't need people to join wars after we've already won. This is when it was asked about, other NATO nations coming in to help, which they said, nah, you're on your own on this one, partner. So on 60 Minutes on March 8th, Heston says, what I want your viewers to understand is this is only just the beginning. March 9th, at a press conference, Trump says we're achieving major strides towards completing our military objective, and some people could say they're pretty well complete. Okay, all right. We're pressed on the timeline, said the war will be over, quote, very soon. This is March 9th, all right? So here we go. We move down to a Time magazine interview. Trump said the war is very complete, pretty much. If you look, they have nothing left. There's nothing left in the military sense. So if they're operating out of nothing, right, this should have been over with, and done with easily, right? Okay, so he says to Republican lawmakers, quote, we've already won in many ways, but we haven't won enough, whatever that means. So he posts on an account for the Defense Department, posted a photo of a missile with a text overlay saying, quote, no mercy. We have only just begun to fight. March 10th, in a press conference, a reporter asked Heston how far the U.S. is into its air campaign against Iran. Heston says, from the beginning, from this podium, we haven't stated how long it will take. Trump gets to control the throttle, and so it's not for me to post whether it's the beginning, the middle, or the end of the conflict. All right. So on March 11th, in Ohio, a reporter asked Trump if Iran's a, quote, little excursion or a war. Remember, we talked about the War Powers Act. All right. So 2 labels he used at the event. Trump replied, well, it's both. It's both. How can it be an excursion and a war? It just sounds ridiculous. It's an excursion that will keep us out of a war. Makes no sense. For Iran, it's a war, he said, and for the U.S., it turned out to be easier than we thought. Again, nobody really thought that the Iranian army had a chance against us fighting, especially at full strength. We're not even at full strength out there. We know that because we don't have to. But this is like a bully picking on someone smaller than them. We all know this, and all it does is create more enemies for us because people will say, okay, you see why we call the United States the Great Satan, because they love to pick on smaller countries, for reasons that we state why we should, okay? So at a rally in Kentucky, this is March 11th, he says, let me tell you, we've won, You never like to say too early you won. We won. We won in the first hour. It was over. We got to finish the job, right? So he told Axios that the war will be over soon because there's practically nothing left to target. Anytime I want to end it, it will end. Anytime he wants to end it, it will end. This is March 11th. All right. March 13th, when asked about how long the war will last, he told reporters, I can't tell you that. I mean, I have my own idea, but what good does it do? It'll be as long as it's necessary. And he tells Fox News Radio, I don't think it's going to be long. He said he would know it's over when I feel it in my bones. March 15th, still, I'm telling you, man, I had to laugh at this stuff. If it wasn't so serious, it would be funny. Speaking to reporters on Air Force One, he said that militarily, quote, we've essentially defeated Iran. I guess they can have a little bit of fight back, but not much. He added the U.S. was involved in diplomatic talks with Iran, and Iran wanted to make a deal. They really want to make a deal. Keep that in mind, right? They really want to make a deal. It's March 15th. So when asked if he was ready to officially declare victory against Iran, Trump said, no, they're decimated, but I'm still not declaring it over. Guess he don't want to do the same thing that President Bush did when he was in office, when he said mission accomplished in Iraq. So March 16th, during the task force meeting about fraud and fairly funded programs, a reporter asked Trump if Iran was obliterated, as he said, whether the war could be wrapped up in a week. Yeah, sure, we could. Will we? I don't think so, but it'll be soon. It won't be long. We're going to have a much safer world when it's wrapped up. It'll be wrapped up soon. That's March 16th. March 17th, at a meeting with the leader of Ireland, he said, Iran is just a military operation to me. Iran is something that was essentially largely over in 2 or 3 days because the Navy was wiped out almost immediately. The Air Force came next. The anti-aircraft came next. When a reporter asked if he had a day after plan, Trump said, look, If we get it, if we left right now, it would take 10 years for them to rebuild. 10 years, but we're not ready to leave yet. We'll be leaving in the near future. We'll be leaving in pretty much the very near future. But right now, they've been decimated from every standpoint. So, this is March 17th now. So we got a country, as they say, that's so decimated, they ain't got nothing left. So what you got to negotiate? What you got to bargain, all right? March 19th, he said the Iran is, quote, close to demolished. The only thing is the Strait, referring to the Strait of Hormuz. So he said that he wouldn't want to set a definitive time frame for the war's end. This is Hetzef saying that. So March 20th, a reporter asked him what he meant by saying the war was militarily won in Iran. Oh, I think we won. We've knocked out their Navy, the Air Force. We've knocked out the anti-aircraft, knocked out everything. We're roaming free. From a military standpoint, all they're doing is clogging up the strait. But from a military standpoint, they're finished. We defeated the enemy, and they are our enemy. So he rejected Pope Leo the 14th's call for a ceasefire, saying, you don't do a ceasefire when you're literally obliterating the other side. So we're getting close to meeting our objectives as we consider winding down military efforts in Iran. This is March 20th. March 21st, he threatened that if Iran didn't fully open the strait, he would obliterate his power plants. March 23rd, he said the U.S. and Iran had 2 days of productive conversations and had instructed the Defense Department to postpone strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure for 5 days, subject to ongoing successful discussions. So he said we had very strong talks with Iran and the countries wanted to make a deal. We will at some point very, very soon meet. We're doing a 5-day period. We'll see how it goes. And if it goes well, we're going to end up with this settling this thing. Otherwise, we'll just keep bombing our little hearts out. March 24th. Same thing. Well, I think we're going to end it. We've won this. This war has been won. March 24th. I'm going to repeat that again. March 26th through the 27th. Oh, Iran is begging to work out a deal. I don't know if we'll be able to do that. I don't know if we're willing to do that. We estimate it would take approximately 4 to 6 weeks to achieve our mission. This is March 26th. We're way ahead of schedule. Way ahead of schedule. The Iranian regime is now admitting to itself they have been decisively defeated. So he said that Iran is negotiating. March 29th, he said Iran sent U.S. 10 boats of oil out of a sign of respect. I think we'll make a deal with them pretty sure, but it's possible we won't. So he told the Financial Times he wants to, quote, take the oil in Iran and could attack Karg Island, a major fuel hub. March 30th, he says the U.S. is in, quote, serious discussions with bold letters now, a new and more reasonable regime to end our military operations in Iran. If a deal is not shortly reached and the Strait of Hormuz is not immediately open, the U.S. will blow up and obliterate Iran's electrical plants, oil wells, and Karg Island. Island's still there. In a primetime White House address, he says, quote, we're on track to complete all the military objectives shortly, very shortly. We're going to hit them extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to bring them back to the Stone Age where they belong. April 2nd, Iran shot down 2 U.S. military aircraft. Those on the planes were rescued. Trump repeated threats against Iran in the days that followed. April 4th, quote, on Truth Social. Remember when I gave Iran 10 days to, quote, in bold caps, make a deal or open up the Hormuz Strait? Time is running out. 48 hours before all hell rained down on them. Glory be to God. This is his words now. April 5th, Easter Sunday. In a profanity-laced Easter Day statement, Trump threatened Iran. Tuesday will be Power Plant Day and Bridge Day all wrapped up in one in Iran. There will be nothing like it. Open the effing strait, you crazy bastards, or you'll be living in hell. Just watch. This is what he said on April 4th, in that disgusting thing. All right, I'm gonna wrap this. So I'm just showing you how silly this has been and how long this has gone on. April 7th, a whole civilization would die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will. In the evening, Trump said that Iran agreed to the complete, immediate, and safe opening of the Strait of Hormuz. Therefore, he agreed to suspend attacking Iran for 2 weeks. Total and complete victory, 100%. No question about it. That was on April 7th. Now we're up to April 8th, baby. Woo! He sends an optimistic message on Truth Social. A big day for world peace. Iran wants it to happen. They've had enough. Likewise, so is everyone else. The United States of America will be helping with the traffic buildup in the Strait of Hormuz. There will be lots of positive action. Big money will be made. I don't know why that mattered. Big money will be made. Iran can start the reconstruction process. We'll be loading up with supplies of all kinds and just, quote, hanging around in order to make sure that everything goes well. I feel confident that it will. April 12th, after failed negotiations, Trump said most points were agreed to, but the only point that really mattered, quote, nuclear was not. Remember, I told you we had a deal in place already. Trump said the U.S. would begin blocking ships entering or leaving the Strait of Hormuz. Quote, any Iranian who fires at us or at peaceful vessels will be, quote, blown to hell, all caps. And we are fully, all caps, locked and loaded, and our military will finish the little that is left of Iran. April 16th, he says the war in Iran is going along swimmingly. We can do whatever we want, and it should be ending pretty soon. I mean, it was perfect, man. I mean, it's perfect. So April 17th, he says in all caps, the Strait of Hormuz is completely open and ready for business and full passage, but the naval blockade will remain in full effect, in full force and full effect as it pertains to Iran only until such time as our transaction with Iran is 100% complete. This process should go quickly and that most of the points are already negotiated. And he says at a rally at the Turning Point USA rally, quote, Iran has just announced that the Strait of Hormuz is fully open and ready for business and full passage. But Trump said the naval blockade will remain in force until our transaction with Iran is 100% complete and fully signed. He said the process should go very quickly. Most of the points are already agreed negotiating to. So we're offering a very fair and reasonable deal, all caps. And I hope they take it, because if they don't, the U.S. is going to knock every single power plant and every single bridge in Iran. No more Mr. Nice Guy in all caps. And then on April 20th, and I'm going to end it here, Trump said in the let me just say, the Line Social Post, that the deal the U.S. is working on will be, quote, far better than the 2015 Iran nuclear deal negotiated under President Barack Obama. During his term, Trump broke his promise to renegotiate the deal. So he said he was asked by a PBS News reporter, what happens if a ceasefire expires April 21st? Then lots of bombs start going off. He said it was highly unlikely that he'd extend a ceasefire without a deal, and said it expires on the evening of April 22nd. Right now, he making sure. So he like to say, Democrats like to say, I promised 6 weeks to defeat Iran. And actually, from the military standpoint, it was faster than that. But I'm not going to let them rush the U.S. into making a deal that's not as good as it could have been. He said he was under no pressure whatsoever to make a deal, although it would all happen relatively quickly. That was April 20th. Here we are in June, and Iran is still not negotiating a deal, okay? How much... we just heard, I went through that whole rambling list, and again, it made me chuckle, because it just goes to show, man, this dude ain't no leader, man. This is all a joke. This is a joke. When you're constantly trying to show how tough you are through social media, and when it comes down to negotiating, you suck. You're supposed to be this master negotiator, right? Remember, in his first term, he swore up and down, yeah, Mexico gonna pay for that wall. They're gonna pay for that wall, baby. Oh, yeah. And then what happened? I'll never forget this. He flies down to meet the then president of Mexico, didn't even bring it up. According to the Mexican president, didn't even bring it up. No talk, nothing at all about building the wall. So this is par for the course, man. We are at a stage right now where this is all a sick joke. It really is. I wanted to take the time to read all of that, and I know that was lengthy, but it just goes to show how long you gonna keep listening to this fool say the same stuff over and over again. He has no teeth. There's no teeth behind something when you keep making threats. We call it selling wolf tickets. You know that term. When you keep making threats and you don't live up to them. And all that threatening to end civilization and all that other stuff, when everybody critiqued and criticized him for it, he backed down. Yeah. Because you don't think these other countries realize and see that, man, this dude ain't serious, man. This is not an intelligent person. This is not somebody who claims to be a master negotiator. This is not somebody who's really interested in world peace or interested in just being a leader of a nation, being a serious leader of a nation. He ain't serious. And I know we spend a lot of time on here talking about this clown, but it just goes to show that we don't have a serious person if you didn't already know it. Most of us with a brain have known this for quite some time, but we have somebody that's not serious at all. And it puts all of us at risk. This is not just about what side of the aisle you support, or if you're in the middle and claim I'm not a part of either party, you're affected too. And I promise you, we've talked about this before, I promise you, there's going to be some other sect that's been created as a result of this. And what you wind up doing is you wind up angering those that that already don't like you. They get angrier, and you've isolated us from the rest of the world. They know we're not serious about being a leader in the rest of the world. So all of this, is just trying to upstage former President Barack Obama, still president, as far as I'm gonna say. All of this is to try to always be better than him. You're never gonna live up to it, dude. Never. In your own mind, and in all of your racist supporters' mind, you think you're going to do something better. You're failing miserably, and history will note this. History will note it. So I'm done rambling about this topic. Rodney, what's up?
Man, look, yeah, it was long, but it was needed. It was needed though, Bobby. And look, you stopped on what, April the 21st
April
or something like
26th. That
April
includes the
26th
stuff
is
afterward.
right.
Mhm.
And we've been through the rest of April, those 5 or so days that was left in April that you didn't hit on, and also throughout the entire month of May and what
May.
has happened so far in June, which is that Israel has said, I'm not Israel, but Iran has said we're done. We're not
Mhm.
negotiating with this
Mhm.
guy. And so, but here's the sad part of it, Bobby, is that we have to remember that 77 million people voted for this guy.
Actually.
Yeah, well, yeah, allegedly. And I'm starting to believe it a little bit more just based on some of the elections and that has happened since, and even some of the things that are happening right now. People are people. I don't know, man. People are in some kind of weird uh world, some kind of backwards place. And I
Zombie.
don't yeah, I know, and I don't understand it, but I mean I understand it, but I don't understand it. And so one of the things that I want to say, man, is that when we even for your last hot topic that you're going to go into, which is a little bit lighter, but it's honestly just as serious. Um, and I bring up those 77 million people is because even though this stuff sound and feels so silly and outrageous to people like me and you, but to a lot of Americans, this savage language that this man is speaking, it resonates to a lot of folks in this country. We just find it hard to absorb and believe that, but the man he's a master at knowing how to use his narcissism to kind of get people into a cult like situation. And it reminds me of the difference between a transformational leader and a transactional leader. And so transactions, Dr. Martin Luther King, most would say that he was a very transformational leader, right?
Mhm.
And most people would say that Adolf Hitler was a very transactional leader. But look, both of those guys were very effective in getting people to follow them, and for different reasons, but they were just as one was no more effective than the other, and they were just as effective as each other, I guess was the best way to say that. And so, and usually a lot of times is when they are when those people are let down, transactional or transformational leaders, when they are let down by the masses of the people, then a lot of times they end up like those two gentlemen, one assassinated, of course, Dr. King, and I think Hitler died by suicide.
Yeah, and it's voluntarily ignorance,
Yeah.
because you have the opportunity to break free. And that's why I've said, like, this is like a zombie existence with people not using their heads or just turning away from what they know is right. And you know what? And this is the last thing I'll say on this.
Okay.
And people that know me know usually that's not the case. I'm always gonna say something else.
It's
But
all good.
if you get what some of these people um want, what they say they want, which is they want all quote unquote foreign people out of the country. They want to send us black people out of the country. You know what you're still gonna have? And white people need to understand this, those that have these views. You know what you're still gonna have? You're still gonna have poverty. You're still going to have crime. You're still going to have drugs. You're still going to have unemployment. You're still not going to be happy. If all of us left, the economy is going to tank. You're not going to see this world that you think is going to exist, this utopia, this white utopia.
Right.
Everything is going to be great. This is stupid. So if you got everything that you wanted as far as leaving the country,
Yeah.
you're not going to get what you think is utopia. You're not. You're going to have the same problems still lingering around. So what's the point? What's the point?
Yeah.
You're hoping for something that's never going to happen, for one. And two, if it ever did, you're not gonna be free of problems. You're gonna have the
No.
same problems that still exist, like I mentioned before. So
Except for those problems are going to be exasperated. They're going
yeah,
to shoot up.
yeah,
And then what's going to happen if that were to ever happen is all those problems you name, poverty, crime, and everything else is going to skyrocket.
hmm
And then they're going to do what most homogenized kind of white countries do, and that's to go straight into socialism
hmm
because they don't have the blackies or the brownies to worry about them having more than they are having. But anyway, Bobby, I know you do have one more hot topic, and it's supposed to be lighter, but boy, it can get a little heavy. But we'll see. We'll take it.
Yeah.
We'll take it frame by frame, brother.
Yeah, thank you. So the last topic for today is Jaxson Dart and Abdul Carter. So for those of you that don't know, Jaxson Dart introduced Trump at a rally. I believe it was last week or the week before. He made his presence known there.
And Jaxson Dart is the current
Yes.
quarterback of the New York Giants.
Current quarterback of the
NFL
New
football
York
team.
Giants.
Yes, sir.
Yes, current quarterback of the New York Giants. Abdul Carter is the first-round pick, defensive lineman, defensive end from 2 years ago. Very talented young man as well. So Dart
And
appears
Muslim.
and Muslim, yes.
Yes.
So Dart appears at this rally, shaking hands and introducing the current moron in office. And, I really like the way Abdul Carter handled himself in questioning Dart's appearance there. Since then, we've seen Dart kind of back off a little bit from, why he went, etc. But what gets me is, by the way, Dart is only in his second year in the NFL. What gets me about it is you're not reading the room of where you are. You're in New York. New York is where he's from. Not Dart. I'm talking about the current moron in office. You're in a state that is solidly against him. And by the way, the head coach, John Harbaugh, is also a MAGA supporter. So you've got those two things going on. Now, for those that may not be politically astute on the team, which I can't see why anyone at this point in time would not be able to know what's going on in this country. But, obviously for many of the black players on the team or any other race on the team, but look at you kind of like, man, what are you doing? The quarterback is it has been glamorized as the most important position in football. They're paid the most.
In sports, if you listen
In
to them.
sports, yes. They're paid the most. Usually everybody knows, if you're a football fan, you know who the quarterback is on the football team. You might not know any of the linemen. You may not know all the running backs, receivers, tight ends, whatever. You're going to know who the quarterback is of an NFL team. So therefore, you are expected to lead. You are out there, expected to carry the team. And I would think, and I know he's young. I'm not going to give him that out.
No.
But you would think that you would be able to understand that what you say and the things that you do are going to be highly scrutinized. It's going to be highly critiqued. And for you to make an appearance that shows you're better off, and most people understand this that play sports, you're better off keeping your politics to yourself. When you go and, again, you're holding that kind of responsibility as the quarterback of a football team, an NFL professional football team in New York City, okay?
Yep.
Because the Jets are so bad, You know, you don't really have any. The quarterback there doesn't really have the same amount of relevance, and that's Geno Smith, right?
And I think the New York Giants has what they have the biggest media market in
Yes,
all of football,
all the sports. Yeah, maybe
yeah.
all the sports.
Maybe all of sports, yeah.
But in the NFL, yeah. So you have to understand and read the room, and I get it because there's a lot of NFL owners that support the current occupant.
You best believe it.
Yeah, because they're super wealthy. So of course they do. However, you as the supposed leader of the football team, you don't have the same leeway. You don't. And you best believe now, Abdul Carter is just one. If you think Abdul Carter is the only one on the team that feels that way, that he does, you better think again. You better look around that locker room and realize who's blocking for you, who's catching passes from you, and who you're handing the ball off to. All of this matters. So you better start thinking before you start making random appearances at things like this and thinking it's just innocent. Oh, I get a chance to bring out the current occupant of the White House. That is great. One-time opportunity, a chance of a lifetime. Okay, understand this. Now, this is not going to be in the same circles, but Colin Kaepernick took a political stance, and because of the color of his skin, his career ended. His football career ended. But he did it peacefully, right? Not saying you went and you did, you acted a fool and started a riot. But again, in this current climate of what's going on with this regime, for you to make an appearance there speaks loudly to the other players as to how you feel about what's going on. And so you have to be smarter than that. Again, not knowing that if you don't know, first of all, what state you're in, not knowing that the political climate what it currently is, and understanding that this is where he's from, but he's not embraced unless you're a super rich elite. So to not have that knowledge is incredible to me. You see all these teams that have won championships and refuse to go. They've taken their own stance. I'm not going to meet him. He doesn't stand for what I stand for. It's real easy right now. It's really more of an act of cowardice, I think. It's real easy to fall in line and go with the flow and just feel like, hey man, they're in charge. Everything's great. Oh yeah, look at what he's doing, which is nothing but we've talked about this before. We just had our whole rant about it. Nothing but clownish behavior. Not a real leader. The economy's tanking. We're an insolvent nation. We're at a war he can't explain, can't get out of it. Now we're talking about Lebanon, possibly in these talks now with him and Netanyahu. He can't get out of one. We're talking about Cuba next, and just nonsense. I mean, one thing after another. This is the side you wanna say you're on now. Okay, all right. Just keep in mind this regime will end. What's happening is not sustainable. It's not a sustainable legacy at all. So, in Germany, there's no Nazi symbols. There's
absolutely
nothing that you would know unless history tells you that the Nazis in Germany's even existed, unless you're going to a museum somewhere, but you will not see any of those symbols anywhere in that country.
No,
They've
sir.
made it known. So this is not a history you not want to repeat, but this is also something that is not sustainable. It's not something that's going to leave a lasting legacy. So all the people now that you puffing your chest out and you think this is all good. Yeah. Okay. Just remember, we're going to look back at this time. Our kids will look back at this time. Your grandkids look back at this time and say, like, this was the dumbest era, especially when I just mentioned how you can easily research things that you want to know. This was the dumbest era, I think, in United States history. And it will leave a stain forever with the amount of ignorance that was accepted. And if you don't learn from this right now, learning right now in these days and times, what kind of era we're living in, what we need to do, I don't know what to tell you. You're lost, you're gone. It ain't too late, but I'm telling you, you're riding on a train that is going to crash hard. So I want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, just thinking about Germany when you were talking about that and how they, unlike the United States, that has Confederate monuments everywhere, all over the place. The Germans didn't do that. It's illegal to have a Nazi symbol. But even one thing that those guys, and I hate to say this, Bobby, but one thing that those people who these neo-Nazis and all of that is that the right-wing party in Germany is making a huge comeback right now. In fact, what's happening in Germany, we're not going to, of course, talk about it, but what's happening in Germany with the nationalists is very similar to what is happening here. And they don't even allow for any of those Nazi symbols and stuff to happen. So, or to that it's illegal, made it illegal to have those kinds of things. But yet, still, what's happening in Germany. But then that's a whole nother thing. But it's just something for another thing for them to hang their hats on. Now, as far as this Jaxson Dart guy, it is why in your last hot topic, Bobby, that I talked about when I said that the stupidity and the ignorance is almost it makes you almost have no hope almost, because these people are young. This guy is maybe what, 22 or something like that. Jaxson Dart. He's definitely under
24.
Yeah, he's definitely under 25.
Played at Ole Miss.
Yes, played at Ole Miss. And this guy was raised in Utah as a Mormon. I don't even know why anybody is surprised, but I almost hate it for the millennials, who I believe that a big part of them is that, and I don't even know if this guy would even qualify as a millennial. I think he's a generation Y or whatever it is after the millennials. But either way, is that the millennials, I think they really thought that racism and all this stuff was over with Obama, because they grew up. The millennials kind of grew up with this 8 years with this. They came of age with this black man in office. Now, us Generation Xers, we knew better, right? And it's always, if you look at it, many times, it is those guys who are those Caucasian, non-melanated guys who are 18 to 28, 30 years old, young guys who are doing this. And so, but even with the Jaxson, when you look at the contrast between Jaxson Dart and Abdul, you see that, look at how in touch and understanding that he is about how you should not be aligning yourself with Donald Trump, but yet Jaxson Dart is not. So just the contrast, even with that, Bobby, I won't say it's amazing, but it is definitely something that makes you say, wow, just starting this thing all over again. And one thing I want to say, Bobby, before you close out the show, and that is that, look, we're talking about sports, and I'm talking to the brothers out there. I'm talking to the brothers because, Bobby, you and I, we are sports guys. We are into sports. Bobby and I can have a whole podcast on sports, just That's sports right. in itself, especially when you're talking about Georgia sports and that kind of thing. Yeah. But in general, sports in general, from tennis to golf to football and all of that stuff, soccer, hockey, everything. But at the end of the day, I'm talking to the brothers out there to let you know that, look, there's nothing wrong with being involved with sports. There's so many things about the NFL that I just absolutely cannot stand in the way that it's designed and all of that stuff. But again, that's a whole podcast. But what I'm telling you is that you guys can see also that Bobby and I, we just don't let sports dominate our brain. Okay, there are other things that we can talk about. Of course, both of us are veterans, so we can talk foreign policy all day long. We can talk military and that kind of thing. But what I'm telling you, brothers, is this, is that if we can talk about an array of topics other than sports, then you can do the same thing.
Right.
It's what I'm saying. You can do the same thing. So I just wanted to say that, Bobby, because I just know too many brothers, man. They know every single thing about sports. And boy, they don't hardly know anything else about anything. And so I just had to put that out there.
Oh, but shoot. Yeah, I get it.
yeah. So,
I get it. Give that, in other words, just get that same energy.
That same energy. That's all I'm asking. The same energy, man. And because we really do need it right now. And so but anyway, Bobby, like always, man, it's been a minute because we've been trying to get these local candidates in, statewide candidates, and candidates running under the Gold Dome. So we hadn't done a local lookout in a minute. So, but I'm glad to be back doing it right now. And yeah, we still have a few interruptions that might happen between now and November for this, for these midterm elections, because it's that important.
Yes.
We don't, we don't really, we can talk politics all day long too, but these are not our most highly rated shows when we talk about, when we bring on folks, the candidates and all of that, but we know it's something that must be done.
That's
and
right.
we know that when we want them, a lot of times they reach out to us and we want to provide them a platform to come and talk to Black men, because we know that a lot of times in the political world of America is that a lot of candidates, to include Democratic candidates, they don't want to come and talk to the Black audience until after Labor Day, and then they want to try to avoid Black men altogether, because we're kind of frank and explicit sometimes, but hey, it's the only way that you're going to grow. And so we'll continue to do that. But anyway, Bobby, great show, man. And welcome back. Welcome back to this platform. Absolutely.
I appreciate it. So we'll close out. We want to thank everyone for listening. We want to remind you that the podcast comes out every Thursday, 7 o'clock, every Thursday, local Lookout with Rodney and Bobby on the Black Man's Roundtable. So we thank you once again for listening. We'll see you in them suites and in them streets. Holla at you.
Flip some tables.
Flip them.
Hey, family. If you like what you saw, visit our website at blackmansroundtable.com for more information or to check out more content. Until next time, we'll see you in them suites and them streets. Peace.
Read something educational for you.
Woke up to the sound of the struggle, echoes loud in the street. Generations of pain in the rhythm, blood and tears in the beat. From the corners to the courtrooms, we decipher the code. Every word that we speak is a chapter, every step is a road. They try to silence the story, rewrite the pages in gold. But the truth don't need no filter, the truth don't need no hope.
This is the anthem, the voice of the unheard. Standing tall in the fire, speaking life with each word. From the roots to the branches, we rise through the pain. Black Man's Roundtable, we're breaking the chain.
Microphone in my hand like a weapon, wisdom passed down through the ages. Every topic we tackle, every fight on these stages. They say we're too loud when we whisper, too proud when we kneel. But the power in our voices is the power that's real.
This is the anthem, the voice of the unheard. Standing tall in the fire, speaking life with each word. From the roots to the branches, we rise to the pain. Black Man's Roundtable, we're breaking the chain. This is the anthem, the voice of the unheard. Standing tall in the fire, speaking life with each word. On the roots to the branches, we rise through the pain. Black Man's Roundtable, we're breaking the chains.
Unapologetically black. We'll see you in them suites and them streets where we're flipping tables like Jesus.
We're breaking the chains.